the brain trust for you in-house. Today, we have Mina Kimes. We have Swagoo, Marcus Spears. We have Dan Graziano all with us for the full hour. And we're going to start with Swagoo's Cowboys. All right, here we go. The Cowboys rookie minicamp is wrapping up today, and new head coach Brian Schottenheimer spoke about the changes he's already made in Dallas, moving Dak Prescott's locker next to Micah Parsons, and then he explained the adjustments that he made in their first team meeting.
We moved some guys around. This year I did, along with the help of the staff. Again, they don't really get a say in that, but there's a method to the madness. I think when the guys went into the team room for the first time, I made them all stand up after they sat down. I let them sit down, and I had them stand up, and I had them move seats. Why? It's a new year. It's 2025. We'll do that in 2026. We'll do that in 2027 and beyond. I think it's just when you start a new year, do something different, change something up. So it's something that's talked about, thought about, but there's a method to the madness at times.
Okay, Swagoo, so let's start with you. One could argue there's been a lot of madness there in Dallas. What's the most effective way you think Shotty can change things as a new head coach?
Yeah, I think building a culture and trying to insulate this locker room away from all of the things that go on revolving around the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, the media attention, all the things that transpire that are very unimportant to actually winning games on the field. And I'm actually a byproduct of this. Like, Bill Parcells had strategic ways that he placed lockers. He put a lot of veterans by each other. He put leaders by each other. Sometimes he would put veterans by young guys who had to contribute that particular year. So whatever Brian Schottenheimer method is, hopefully is something that's going to create a culture where the outside influences can't infiltrate that. Dallas is unique in that way, where you almost got to make this the coaching staff in the locker room against everything else as far as attention goes, so you can strictly focus on football and be one group trending in the same direction and let the madness go on the outside.
I think, Swagoo, to that point almost, like the key aspect of the Brian Schottenheimer hire as head coach for Dallas is that he's not coming in from the outside. He's part of that culture, right? Like he's for better or for worse, like he's been around and he knows how things work there. And so when you come in and make changes, if you're the new guy and you're coming in from somewhere else, it's possible that the players react in a way like, hey, who's this guy think he is? Not so in this case, because they already know Brian Schottenheimer. And quite frankly, from what I've been told, they like him. I think this is a hire that went over pretty well, from what I understand, in the Cowboys locker room with the players. I think they're happy for him and eager to give him a chance to put his stamp on it. So whatever changes are being made, I think the players are likely, into it and excited about what he might bring to the party. But it was interesting. He sounds very optimistic, talking about we'll make these changes again next year and the year after that and the year after that. He expects to be there a while.
Yeah, and listen, he may not be a new face, as you point out, Dan, but there are plenty of them there. I mean, we talked last week about all those needs that the Cowboys had going into the draft. Did they address their most important ones?
Yes and no. I'm really torn on this draft class. Marcus and I were watching the picks come in together and saw that, because I actually like a lot of their picks, right? You start with Tyler Booker. Guard was a need, and they have such a good track record when it comes to drafting offensive linemen. Donovan Izaraku out of Boston College, a very technically refined, productive pass rusher, also a need opposite Micah Parsons, who's about to get paid. And then I really love the addition of Siobhan Revel Jr., who's a cornerback out of East Carolina, who I really think would have gone a lot higher had he not been injured last season. Again, cornerback, also a need. But I don't know how they came out of this draft without a single wide receiver. That was perhaps the most glaring need of all of them, maybe outside of running back. And I do wish that they added some help, not just for Dak, but someone to take a little bit of attention off of CeeDee Lamb. Amari Cooper is still out there as a free agent, so that's someone I would keep my eye on. But, yeah, it's kind of a mixed grade for me, Hannah.
Yeah.
MK, we were sitting in the hotel lobby, the wonderful Residence Inn in Green Bay, and we were going through these picks and trying to decipher, what was the need. Shout out to, first of all, staff, phenomenal. Very nice people, took very good care of us. But the Tyler Booker thing for me was more about, obviously we talked about the potential of having to replace Zach Martin. And usually offensive linemen, especially the ones that Dallas draft, they become stalwarts. They play a long time. They've been tremendous in that area of drafting guys. But to Mina's point, we were all sitting there at 12, like, are they going to take Ted McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, if he's there? And Carolina traded up and took him. And I have some ideas now after the draft that was a thought. If he was available, that he would be a guy that would hold significant weight between the two, whether we would go O-line or offensive playmaker. So to your point, it's going to have to happen through free agency. They're going to have to find a young diamond in the rough. And they also traded for a young wide receiver out of Carolina last year, and it made everybody scratch their heads, but seemingly high on him.
Yeah,
I forget his
listen,
name.
they didn't
apologies.
even average 21 points a game last year, so they have to do something offensively.
No.
That was their fewest in a season since 2015. Of course, Dak is
was
healthy
hurt,
and
too.
coming back. I know it did. I'm
making
sorry,
excuses.
Swagoo. I didn't mean to hurt you. Meanwhile, in Baltimore, where they're wrapping up rookie minicamp as well, John Harbaugh spoke yesterday. He couldn't help but rave about their first-round pick, safety Malachi Starks out of Georgia.
John, what do you hope that Malachi can not only learn from this offseason, but also the safeties in your room right now, Kyle Hamilton or Darius Washington?
Right. Well, yeah, I hope he learns how to be like an all-pro. I mean, that's kind of what you hope. I mean, you hope for the best. And plan for the best too, I guess. I mean, I expect him to do really well. You know, he's our first-round pick. A lot to whom much is given, much is required. And nobody understands it better than him as a young guy. Really impressed with his maturity. He broke the huddle today. That's not an easy thing to do your first time. So, so far so good.
All right, so he could break the huddle. Yay, good start. Mina, good secondary too. What does he bring to the table?
A lot. Opportunity. So this was like a really chalky pick to the Baltimore Ravens. People thought it was very likely to go there, and it was for good reason. Last season, Marcus remembers we talked about this so much, the Ravens basically saved their season halfway through by moving Kyle Hamilton to free safety full time, which sort of stopped the bleeding in the pass defense. But I would also argue didn't allow them to weaponize Hamilton the way they have in the past, both playing the nickel as a blitzer, or Darius Washington emerged as a second safety. But now Malachi Starks gives them a third safety who's also very versatile and will allow them to game plan specifically for Hamilton based on their opponent. So I love the pick for who he is as a player and what he brings, but I also love it because of what it does for Kyle Hamilton, who I think is one of the best safeties in the NFL.
And Swagoo, if we go to the other side of the ball, just I guess similar to what we were talking about with the Cowboys in a way, do they have enough help in that receiver room?
I believe so. And like the focus and attention has been on the Ravens and the receiving room. Obviously, they had DeAndre Hopkins. Then you have Zay Flowers, who's going to come back off of injury. And I think they did a phenomenal job. But the people forget about is Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, right? These two tight ends really cause defenses to have to play a certain way. And not to mention 8 and the freedom that he has, because they're all really good pass catchers when you start talking about on the outside for the Baltimore Ravens. The thing that I love about what they've done offensively now with the addition of Derrick Henry is not only did Derrick Henry churn out his yards per usual, he also created opportunities like we thought at the forefront of him coming over to Baltimore, with guys having the ability to exploit matchups, because defenses have to respect and load the box with him being back there. So I think sometimes he gets lost with both of these tight ends, and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely that I'm talking about, that they are a part of this receiving group as much as the wide receivers. And Rashad Bateman, to me, and Mina have went back and forth since Rashad Bateman was drafted, if he could be a number one. He was phenomenal down the stretch, made a lot of big plays for the Baltimore Ravens throughout their run. So I think they are just fine at the wide receiver position, and I love that they went defense in order to continue to solidify something that they've hung their hats on for years in Baltimore.
You know, people shouldn't sleep on the DeAndre Hopkins acquisition either. He was not productive for the Chiefs. But when you talk to the Chiefs coaches, they will tell you stories about the impact DeAndre Hopkins had on their team. The first day he got to practice, he told the coach that was throwing the ball in the sideline drills to wide receivers that he was throwing it from the wrong hash mark, and so he moved him, and now that's the way the Chiefs do that drill. DeAndre Hopkins did that. He was the guy that when the offense came off the field, he would grab the Surface tablet and go over to Xavier Worthy and go through what you did. You ran this route correctly, but because this corner's playing me this way and this corner's playing you this way, you have to make this adjustment. And Xavier Worthy took off in the second half and in the postseason. So when you talk about a guy that can impact a young wide receiver room like the one the Ravens have, DeAndre Hopkins, even if he's not a top 2 or 3 option in the passing game, could have a major impact on what goes on in Baltimore's offense this year too.
Graz, I love that you brought that up. And think about the Baltimore Ravens with veteran wide receivers. They all have seemed to do a really good job, either in spots or be a part of the season. Steve Smith Sr., they brought Odell Beckham Jr. over. Like, they found success with older guys, figuring out how to put them in offenses and use them either in roles or they become a significant part of this offense. So to your point, Graz, with his experience, and they are still young at the wide receiver spot between Bateman and Zay Flowers. Not only do you get that and a learning of the game, but you're probably going to get some really good production from DeAndre Hopkins. Because when you think about the extension of plays with Lamar Jackson, usually those are 50-50